Yo guys, Waltrell here, and today's a pretty special day. Not only have I come back from my little, I guess you could say, break, but I'm gonna start it off with a bang, because I'm going to review all 13 primes that are gonna be released in the Transformers Age of the Primes toy line that just started. And so I'm going to start that off today with the Deluxe Class Solus Prime. And, as you can see, over here, it's an empty space. Not only that, but I've rearranged my desk. And that is because I'm saving the space for all 13 primes. So it'll be fun to watch that part get filled out the more I collect them. But now going on to the box of the figure. So now actually pulling out the box 2 Solus, I gotta say, I love this new design. I heard a lot of people online talking about how, they don't like the new design for like Studio Series in this Age of the Primes box, but I personally really like it. I feel like it looks way better than like the Legacy box, because the, the Legacy box still looked cool, but I just feel like this is better, and the Studio Series box, I also think is better. But looking at the front, this is a picture of Solus in a robot in alt mode. The logo, the new logo, Transformers Age of the Prime, and this actually does something different. It shows the how many steps it takes to transform on the front of the box. So at least it does something different compared to all the other boring boxes. But turning to the right, you'll see the mural that you can make once you collect all the other Transformers and put the boxes together. I'm sorry, all the primes. Once you collect them, you can put the boxes together and it'll make this cool mural. So, yeah, it's gonna be awesome once I collect all the primes and put it together. And turning to the other side is a close-up shot of Solus and the logo again. The bottom is like boring copyright stuff. The Solus Prime on the top. Now turning to the back, this shows Prime Enter, robot mode and alt mode, the renders, and our hammer. But something I wish they did with the new boxes again is actually add character profiles, because I really like them, because back then it actually gave the character character instead of just being a cool robot. And don't get me wrong, I like cool robots, but I feel like it'd be better if they actually talked about the character on the box instead of having to be like, oh, you have to watch this to know how they act or whatever. But here's some more boring stuff, more than meet the eyes authentic. And now actually going on to the figure. Okay, so now actually having Prime in hand, I have to say the paint apps on this figure are great. I love the spread out of the gold throughout the figure, on the shoulder pads and the knees and the skirt, you could call it. I just like the spreading of the gold. And the color purple as well is just good. And the green eyes, it all just fits well. And looking at the head, you see a shiny gold, I guess you could say forehead emblem, and the metallic face all the Transformers have. But actually looking at the back, there's some surprising wiring detail, and due to this, I gotta say, very small backpack. I love the how they compact the backpack, but how it's contorted actually covers the hole where the ball joint goes in the head, so I really like that. And it's just nice to see a full head rather than just the front half. It doesn't look as ugly when you're looking at it from the back. But the sculpt is just amazing, but I just gotta say, I wish she was a size class bigger, because compared to the other primes, she's just a little too small to me, but that's just more of a nitpick than an actual problem, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Now getting a closer look into her body, I mean, her figure is just immaculate. Like compared to other female Transformers, like RC and Alita 1, they're very clunky with like the kibble management and how it hides away is just overall bad. That's why I didn't really get them. But looking at Solus, she actually cleans up very well. You know, the kibble doesn't mess with her figure at all, and I have a theory why. You know, like Studio Series Bumblebee movie. Yeah, it was a Studio Series Bumblebee movie concept art Megatron. And since it was a concept art, they didn't really have anything they had to go off of, so they could focus more on the actual figure quality than the alt mode having to look good. And so I think they did the same with Solus because she hasn't really transformed, so they could just focus on the body. But here's how she does in the pose test. Now let's take a look at her accessories, starting off with her main weapon, her hammer. And she's actually the forger of the main 13 primes, so that's why she has a hammer. And I think this is pretty small, but I think it could be bigger, but it's still good for what it is. And she actually forged Megatronus's arm cannon and also got killed by it. So that's cool. But looking at the detail, specifically the paint apps on this hammer, I love how they used a different yellow for the orbs on the side of the hammer to really break up like the sea of purple with like the gold outline. So I like how it's used to accentuate this part. But you're probably wondering how this gets into her hand, but you see it splits at the hammer and the hilt, so you could slide it into her hand and have her wield it. So I like the engineering on that instead of just leaving this like open. So that's pretty cool. And she also came with this weird purple piece that goes on the bottom so she can hold it like the art on the box, but I lost it in the back, so I just don't have it. But turning her around, you can see there's actually a mushroom peg in the center here. And that is because you can flip this out and actually stick this on her back or any other 5mm port for weapon storage. And I like this weapon storage. It's pretty neat and concealed, so that's pretty good. Now the other fault for this figure are her ankles. And I've seen a lot of people online from just talking about it on reviews how these ankle joints just pop off easily because as you can see here they're on a short mushroom peg. They're a pretty short mushroom peg, so they come out pretty easy, but on my copy, like just posing them, I have to go crazy on the swivel for it to come out. See, it's popped out now, but I have to go crazy with like this ankle for it to come out. So I wouldn't say it's a huge issue. Don't go don't go ape on this joint and you'll be fine, honestly. But now with that out of the way, let's get to the transformation. Now before I actually transform her, I have to talk about two of her very minimal faults, which are her ankles and her forearms. Now, starting with the forearms, the gap filler panels for the alt mode, they just feel very loose all the time. So when you're like transforming it back and forth, they always feel like they're gonna fall off with how loose it is, and it just doesn't feel good. So I would definitely be careful when using them during the transformation. And okay, now moving on to the articulation, she is packing. First, there's a ball joint at the head. Can go 360 degrees, look up, look. She actually looks down pretty good. And there's a hinge at the neck so she can look way up, but looks very weird. And then at the arms, you know, standard posing, go out, 360 out, in 90-degree bend at the elbow, and the hands are actually on ball joints, so you can get into more dynamic poses like having her hold her hammer out like this. But her shoulder pads are on hinges too, so they can hinge out of the way for anything. And the waist is on a mushroom peg, so it can turn, although the backpack does get in the way about halfway. Beautiful spread. Kick about out that far, back that far before the backpack gets in the way, but that's really all you need. No, 90-degree bend at the leg, and then you can use the transformation joint to bend it a little bit more, but I don't see that being very useful. And then a mushroom peg at both ankles, an ankle rocker joint at the foot, and due to transformation, if you move this, you can get away with some backward motion, but no forward motion. And that's about it for the articulation. Now, getting to the transformation, first what you want to do is flip out these panels on the side of the forearms, and then tuck the hands in here. They're actually on a ball joint, so you can get some pretty neat poses with them too. And so then you come down to the feet, flip these wheels out to the side, and then you want to flip the heels inside of the feet and close it back up and rotate them like this. So it should look like this so far. And then what you want to do is grab the skirt, and on my copy at least, I have to like pull these just a little bit to pull these out like this, and then you want to turn that, and sorry, it got stuck. But just real quick, I don't know why, but for some reason on this part there's some really nasty stress marks, and I haven't turned too hard, so I just don't know why they're there. But then what you want to do is pull this backpack out. It's on a hinge, so you want to pull it out where you have as much clearance as possible to flip the head inside of the body. And it's a little tough because it's a very tight squeeze. But once you get that in, you flip this front grill out because it's usually flipped here, so you want to flip this out. And then to get clearance for the back, you pull this to the front to, you know, get as much clearance. Put this down, and then flip the waist. And then you push this down, and I personally think these are the arms are they're the hardest part of this transformation. So first what you want to do is get these shoulder pads. You'll see there are two, it'll focus. There are two hinges right here, and what you want to do is you want to get them out as much as possible, and then flip this panel out, because this is actually a different piece, so you can flip it out. And then you do the same with the other side right here, you know, flip this out, and sorry, it's hard to do this. But then what you want to do is pull this up a little bit, and there's actually a butterfly joint here. And so once you get that done, you will then flip these on. You have to try to flip these like over here. It's hard for me to do it because it just sorry guys, I had to pause real quick. My light died, so I just had to charge it real quick. But anyway, getting back onto the transformation, this part is really finicky for me. I don't like it, but these are on a mushroom peg so they can turn. It makes it a little easier to plug them in. It's just, I hate doing it. Now with the magic of editing, these are in. But anyway, now what you want to do is, I had to unflip this again. What you want to do is grab the forearms and then swivel them up so that there's actually a tab on the side here and a hole here. And you have to tab these into the side of the driver's seat. And then you see a feet here. You bend this, and then there's actually a bend at another bend here that you want to do. And see, it's popping out again. But then you bend this and do the same with the other side. These feet clip together. And then here is the alt mode. Different ones. Okay. Now that I ever transformed into a Cybertronian truck alt mode, the design is, just looking at it, great. You know, this is one of the better Cybertronian alt modes, you know, compared to Bumblebee movie sound waves, like Hover, Cybertruck, whatever, and whatever the hell the Fallen was. That he turned into nothing. So this is a great change of pace, but the front looks good, but the back looks kind of wonky because from the front it's very boxy, but going onto the back it starts to get a little tubular, and it's just looks kind of weird from looking at the side. But overall it just looks good, and I wish maybe they'd put some paint like on this part because it looks a little bare. Besides the windows in these gold parts showing from the robot mode, there isn't really much when it comes to paint apps, but just the color coding just makes up for it, but I still wish that was there. The wheels are actually pinned on too, so she rolls pretty well. So you can actually play with your truck mode and it roll instead of being tabbed on. So that's a plus too. Okay, now looking at weapon storage for this truck mode, you could flip this peg out and stick it on the top, but it just looks weird and no one wants to do that. So they actually have this tab. Oh, sorry. They actually have this tab on the side of the hammer right here, and it can plug into the side of her thigh, so it stores next to it. And it looks a little better, but it still looks kind of mess, so I usually just leave it off. But now for some size comparisons for not only her truck mode, but also her robot mode, because I forgot to film that earlier, so I'm sticking it here now. But anyway, here is her next to Okay, now for my final thoughts. You know, I think she's a great figure overall. I'd probably give her a 7.5 out of 10. So, like, even if you aren't collecting the 13 primes, I'd still recommend picking her up when you get the chance. But anyway, that's my look at Transformers Age of the Primes Deluxe Class Solus Prime. Like and subscribe because I will be reviewing all the other primes, but you'll have to wait. I'll be releasing another review maybe next weekend. Yeah, around there. But I'll see you guys later. See ya.